Hello, I'm Donovan Collins. This is my investment exercise project, and I'm an intended international business major. So, what I started with in my project, I started with the business model canvas, and I started with the company Coca Cola. My three companies were Coca Cola, McDonald's, and Disney, by the way. So, the main takeaways I got from Coca Cola as a company when doing the BMC for it was its channels are usually towards separate identities. Um, they don't really have storefronts, so it's mostly companies like US Food delivering or specific entities such as stores like Safeway. And its number one expense is sugar, and that's very important to their whole model as a company, which we'll get into with the other analysis techniques, because they have so many sugar suppliers and it's just such a key ingredient in all their products. They have many products. And a very key resource is their secret recipe. As the FDA requires, they have to put the ingredients, but the recipe is very crucial because that's the ratio of the ingredients they put in, and it's very hard for off-brand companies such as like Shasta to duplicate that Coca-Cola taste, which is what really helps their success as a company. My next company, BMC analysis, was McDonald's. They really build off of their customer relationships, and they're very important. They appeal towards the family. We see that in those McDonald's play places and the Happy Meals with the toys, and it's clearly been very effective as they've been pretty much the biggest moving force in their market, the fast food market, and they've been able to gain partnerships with IBM and DoorDash, which is really goes to show how powerful their partnering techniques are, because those are also very good quality companies to partner with. Disney's BMC, some main takeaways. The amount of channels really surprised me. There's so many streaming services and companies that provide Disney products and put out Disney content, or channels that they own, such as ESPN. And their acquisitions and partnerships are very impressive, such as National Geographic and Marvel. And yeah, their main revenue stream would be like streaming services, as like there's slowly decline in physical DVDs and cinema viewership. The next analysis technique was the SWOT analysis. It gave me a feel on the strength of all of these companies. Coca-Cola's strengths mainly derived from its initial presence in the market. It's just such a big company, and when you're that big, it's hard to fail. And they also have very great techniques, such as they have really efficient marketing teams. We see it in their advertisements or on national TV. And some negative aspects revealed by the SWOT analysis were there are some threats of the public view of Coca-Cola as a company, but not just as a company, but in the whole market as a whole of sweetened drinks. There's been increased knowledge on how unhealthy these sweetened beverages are. So it's not necessarily a threat to directly Coca-Cola, but I would say the market that Coca-Cola is in, which does actually open up some opportunities for them, as they have the resources and funding to create more healthy drinks, which they have been doing. So that actually, its negative aspects and weaknesses and threats also attribute to its possible opportunities. And McDonald's SWOT analysis. Its strengths really come from the affordability and efficiency of their production, which really helps them as a company and brings in more customers all the time. And also, similar to Coca-Cola's industry, the fast food industry has gotten lots of negative publicity due to health awareness in society, which also does open up opportunities to make more healthier options. But it doesn't seem like McDonald's has been seizing any of those opportunities as Coca-Cola has with non-sweetened drinks. So overall, I'd say Coca-Cola is a little more stronger in reference to the SWOT analysis, and Disney's SWOT analysis was a little different because it's not in the food industry, obviously. Its strengths really come from its publicity and its nostalgia, because it's been such a company that's been around so long, so it's very popular among all generations. They put out content that's fitting for all different types of demographics, but its industry has a lot of threats to it, such as piracy, and there's a constant demand for them to improve and innovate, which can be very taxing on its funds, and constantly having to hire new people and constantly having to expand. An example of this would be there's new HD quality coming out like almost every year, it seems, and Disney has to adapt to this. They're always having to adapt, or else people are going to want to switch to the better content. If there's a company making better quality content than Disney, then they're going to switch to it. So there are some significant weaknesses in the SWOT analysis for Disney. The pestle analysis really brought up some similarities between Coca-Cola and McDonald's, as they have to really adhere to the guidelines of the FDA, but as global companies, they really have to adhere to the legality and economic environments of all the different countries. So this really requires them to utilize an international team and really gain knowledge in international business. Disney was very different, obviously due to its industry, as well as the SWOT analysis for the pestle analysis. Their censorship guidelines really are what have to adhere. They're also a global company, as opposed to like food and drug guidelines that Coke and McDonald's have to adhere to. Disney has to adhere to the censorship guidelines because there's lots of different cultures, and there's lots of different tastes in the media, and how social like interactions are portrayed in the media. And as a media company, Disney they really have to adhere to these social norms for all these different countries that they're marketing to. So yeah, and the last analysis tool is the Porter's 5 Forces. Coke had very high competition, but somewhat low threat to their well-being as a company, because yes, Pepsi does supply a very similar product, which is Pepsi Cola, as Coca-Cola's cola. But Coke really has a lot of products in their industry to fall back on, such as Dasani products, water, flavored water, and they own Fiji as well. And yeah, there's I think about 20 sub companies they own that they can fall back on if that one threat to their one product, Coca-Cola, the actual cola, that's basically the only threat, is to one specific product they have of many. So it's very strong, and also the diverse amount of suppliers gives their suppliers very little power, not in a bad way, but as in it's evenly distributed to their suppliers. So if they have a supplier mishap with one supplier, it's not as big of a deal because their dispersion of suppliers is very vast. They have lots of suppliers to choose from and great relationships with those suppliers. With McDonald's, it's very high competition because there are lots of companies that make the same exact product as them. Burgers and fries, which is their main product, such as Burger King, In-N-Out, McDonald's, Carl's Jr. And they really do lack diversity of suppliers, which is what Coke has. And that's a threat, because if they lose a good relationship with a specific supplier, one supplier holds a lot of weight compared to a company with a diversity of suppliers. Disney, the competition's fairly low, but there's lots of power to the consumers, meaning it's such a non-necessity to have Disney, and it's really not something that people constantly are going to buy, such as like Coke or McDonald's. People are always going to need to eat. Lots of fast food companies have partnerships with Coke. Coke is almost guaranteed to always have some kind of revenues. But Disney is just, people are switching to streaming services, YouTube, social media, and there's also a very low amount of entrance though as well, a low significance of entrance into their industry, because Disney is such a big company, and so are other companies in that industry, and it's hard to succeed in that entertainment industry. So that is one upside that Disney has. They will always be a leader in their industry regardless of how well the industry is doing, but they're also facing some piracy as well, so that's a big threat to revenues. My overall investment analysis on these companies is all three of them are great investments, but out of the three, I would pick Coca-Cola because of their efficient financial structure with their diversity of suppliers. There are the industries within their industry that they can fall back on. And although McDonald's and Disney are very dominant, they face potential of substitution. Disney's threats are on the rise with piracy and the increase of social media use as opposed to cinema. And there's just so much power in the customer's hands with both of those companies. And I feel like Coke really lacks a significant amount of threats. So that is my investment analysis. I hope you learned as much as I did. I really did learn a lot, and I'll use these analyses to be able to determine which companies I'd like to invest in. And I thought it was very valuable. Thank you for watching.